In this video, we're going to describe the new features that are found in version 3 of the Analytical Bible. We start out with the default desktop. Let's close all the windows. Close all windows. And I'm going to tile single window for this demonstration. In the earlier versions of the Analytical Bible, in version 1, we were worried about the original, that is the Greek and Hebrew. In version 2, we were worried about the parsing. And in this version, we were more concerned with the English translation to make sure it is readable as possible. In the Old Testament, only the present and past verbs in the Hebrew is found, as is in all Semitic language. The future tense does not exist. And normally when you want to express something in the future tense, you put it in the past tense, and the hearer understands that this has not happened yet, therefore it must be the future tense. We've also added in all the AB footnotes. We've also added in the dates from Ussher, Annals of the World, and from Newton's Revised Chronology of the Ancient Kingdoms, and Robinson's dates for the epistles. And Robinson wrote the book, The New Testament Redated. We've also added new grammar symbols, and we've added in secular names, that is Caesar and Herod, so you know exactly who he's talking about, and underlining for emphasis. And now we're going to select all the ones that we're interested in, all the versions we're interested in. Now we're going to show you what we selected. For the Bibles, we selected the literal translation, and we made it default by just clicking on the title, like that, and the basic mobile, and I'll explain what those are all about later. For the commentaries, For the commentaries, we selected the Analytical Bible, which is very similar to what you had before, and other commentaries. For the Greek lexicons, we made all the Analytical Bible, with all the lexicons that come with the Analytical Bible, the default. We selected all those, and we selected the Concise Dictionary as the default. And for the Hebrew, we selected all the ones that come with the Analytical Bible, and we selected Brown Driver Briggs also. And let's say no on that one. And on dictionaries, we selected the Hebrew dictionary that explains Hebrew words. And I'm just going to X that thing out. And now I'm going to show you various features of the online Bible in the literal translation, the one that we worked on mostly in the last few months. Let's take a look at Genesis 1:1. It looks just like a normal translation as far as you're concerned. Now let's add in some of the new features, and the one where you're familiar with cross-references, footnotes, and what have you in Strong's. And we're going to add in this new feature, grammar symbols and reference and dates. Ooh, boy, you can see all the changes that occurred. The grammar symbols were added in for the literal translation to indicate any place the translator had to bend the Hebrew and Greek grammar in order to make it readable English. And we added in footnotes on some of the verses, and usually on Genesis 1:1 we had a lot of footnotes. But on the rest of the Bible we didn't have very many footnotes. We had we added in Ussher's dates, Lord's Day, October 23rd, 47, and because it was using the Julian calendar, not the Gregorian calendar, this explains why it happened like that. If you take a look at, let's close out this window, let's take a look at Genesis 1:3, Genesis 5:3. Here we have Abraham lived 130 years and he fathered a son. Now some people say there's gaps in this genealogy. Well, it's absolutely impossible, because the Hebrew word here for fathered is in the reflexive form of the Hebrew verb, and it is quite rare, but it's only used in a few chronologies, in particular in Genesis 11 and Genesis 5. And it means that Adam himself fathered a son of his own likeness. We use secular names throughout. If you take a look at chronology, 12 verse 2, Shishak, we follow Newton's chronology in that, and the Hebrew here is Shishak, and the date is 971 BC Julian calendar. An account without a date is a fairy tale as far as I'm concerned. And all the Bible accounts have dates in them, and they're not fairy tales. Take a look at some of the other translations we make. Psalm 9 verse 17. The wicked will be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God. Now you notice there's Hebrew letters along a lot of these psalms, and these indicate that these were acrostic psalms. That is, they followed the Hebrew alphabet, and we included the first letter of each verse as an acrostic. The wicked will be turned into hell. Now, a lot of modern translations translate that as Sheol, which is totally vacuous. We are supposed to translate, not transliterate. And there's a good old-fashioned Anglo-Saxon word Hebrew of hell, and that's the one that we used. And the nations that forget God, are they going to be turned into Sheol? Well, maybe. But they're going to be, in English, they're going to be turned into hell. A lot of the translations that end in SV, in fact, all the translations that end in SV have the word hell totally eliminated from the Old Testament and replaced with the word Sheol, and replace as often as possible the word hell in the New Testament for the word Hades. That is because the 1901 translators of the ASV, not one of them believed in the eternal punishment of the wicked. We also translated some words using secular names. Let's take a look at Luke 8 verse 3. Herod Antipater. Now you notice that we have as a footnote Herod Antipater, the Greek is Herod. You wouldn't have to have a clue who he's talking about, because you'd think it's Herod the Great, for likely, because that's the most popular one. But in any case, we explained all the different Herods there were. We also explained the Caesars and what have you, and Augustus. Let's take a look at Acts 25, verse 25. And he appealed to Augustus, that is, to Nero Caesar, right? Because Augustus has been dead for about 55 years. And if you take a look at some of the Caesars, let's see. Whoops, Matthew 22 verse 17. What do you think? Is it lawful to pay tribute to Tiberius Caesar or not? And in this case, the Greek is Caesar, and whom they're referring to is Tiberius Caesar. And you can see that in verse 21 also. We also are very careful in this translation to maintain the difference between shall and will. Let's take a look at Genesis 15. The future indicative is indicated by I shall, he will, they will, or you will, all right? And the future imperative, which is not found in Greek and Hebrew, is I will, he shall, and they shall. It's just the opposite of the future indicative. And most translations totally mess this thing up. Now, we have found that the only translation that honestly handles the wills and shalls correctly is the NIV, which is most ironic. And notice the word will here, who will come out of your body, and he will be your heir, and shall your descendants be. That's a command. They will happen. All right, like that. Now, if you take a look at underlining, some of the words are underlining. Matthew 5, verse 1, let's see. Oh my, you notice that a whole bunch of words here in the Beatitudes are underlined. They indicate emphasis in the Greek. Normally in the Greek and the Hebrew, you have the pronoun affixed to the verb, in which case you don't have a separate pronoun. But this, when we find that the word is underlined, we have a separate pronoun, and that was used for emphasis sake. And we also have the mobile that you can download for the mobile, for mobile devices like the Android and the iOS and Apple iOS, which has less features in it, but it has a lot of the features that you need. And finally, we have included a very important note. John Gill. What he doesn't know about the Talmuds and Mishnah of Josephus and the ancient writers, nobody knows, all right? He makes modern commentaries on the Bible look absolutely pathetic. He wrote the largest commentary on the Bible. It is about 9 volumes, the size of Strong's Concordance, each volume. And it is voluminous, and he's just packed with footnotes referring to the ancient writers. So these are some of the new features that we put into the Literal Bible and for the Analytical version 3, and we hope you enjoy them.